talk about the feedback you get from constituents, and that it's always nice when it's positive, such as the snow removal. Are you hearing anything now in that feedback that makes you think there's a new issue that you've got to start keeping on your radar that maybe wasn't on there before?
I can't say that, no. The common theme is downtown with most people, and it's the question is, when is it going to start? Or some people, I spoke in an elderly group up at the Faith Lutheran Church, and a woman said to me afterwards, I go to apologize to you. She said, I used to call it the road to nowhere. I'm using it now to get to Roxy's. I can't believe what a terrific roadway it is. Well, I think that's the first visible sign of things to come to downtown, and people starting to believe. But people are anxious to see it happen. There's those obviously looking for work, but those that want to go to the downtown, use the downtown, be part of the downtown, enjoy the new public spaces, it's long overdue. And so that's the most common theme I get. Other than that, it's the basics. It really is the basics. Some may have a school issue, some may have a street issue.
Has the demographic profile of the city changed in any way since you've been in office? Older, younger, families, no families, renters, buyers? Have you observed anything like that?
I think we've been generally steady on the senior population if you look at the numbers over the years, and I think that's due in part of the convenience of what we have to offer in Quincy. And it could be the same of every demographic that's chosen here. I mean, if a family chooses here because it's a safe city, it's got a good solid school system, it's got good open spaces and parks. I do see more young professionals in some of the new apartments, and I think that's the demographic that Streetworks will be zeroing in on as part of the new downtown, those young professionals that want to be in an urban setting, that like all those conveniences, maybe don't want to have a car, they can jump on the T. And I think as the development has gotten the word out in Quincy, and I think we've been probably a pretty good kept secret for a long time, they're recognizing those advantages now, and we're seeing some of those younger people move in and take up some of those apartments. I think that's a positive thing.
We're getting close to, or we're in that season where people are turning the heat on again. Are we, or has it been resolved how the heating issue is going to be played out for Germantown and the other city apartments?
Well, there's the ongoing federal cuts that everyone's concerned about, whether it's through Quincy Community Action, Salvation Army, or the different nonprofits that provide heating assistance, are seeing great wax. We're looking at another 15% cut, I believe, in our CDBG money. It's coming this year after sustaining a 15% cut this year. So that it's going to be a challenge this year for those folks that struggle.
Well, the issue that came up last year about the Renee room furnaces versus...
Oh, I'm sorry, you're speaking to the changes in the actual physical systems. They made the adjustments they needed to make in dealing with the code issues. So, my guess is those are in place and hopefully operate. I haven't heard anything different. I probably would by now.
I lost track of it, so I just
Me too.
forgotten.
Speaking of code enforcement, the case of the fatal fire in an improperly leased apartment came up again recently. The woman was here again. I forget what court machination happened, but the surviving wife was here. What is the ongoing effort by the city to look at this? Are we back to being responsive when we get a complaint? Is there a proactivity program in place? And if so, how are you measuring that? And is that a quantifiable ongoing program?
Two things. One, we do respond to those calls that we get, and we do follow up to those locations that may have had a problem in the last 2 or 3 years. We go back and do site visits with those when they let you in. So it's always a bit of a challenge. I mean, that was a real eye-opener, I think, for the average person to understand why we're so tough in enforcing this. It is about life and safety. What we have engaged, and I had this discussion a little with John Brothers of Quincy Asian Resources, Quincy Community Action, Beth Ann Stroll, is to engage some of the nonprofits as they deal with those folks and clients and folks to get the word out and educate people a little bit more. Particularly the immigrants that come here, and you have landlords that perhaps are taking advantage of the financial situation. They may not know the rules or the codes, or in fact they don't know the rules and the codes and regulations. And maybe in some cases, an improvement from what they had from where they were. But it's a continuing challenge to educate the newcomers particularly, to break that group. I know that on our street, my own street, I should say, we had a fire a couple of years ago in the home. There was a two-family in the corner of my street, and it had been reported a couple of times that there was more than that living there. My brother-in-law actually heard the smoke alarms, went over to the building, and found them. There was a bucket brigade going on inside, and it was his wife. My sister called the fire department while he went, knocked doors, and told everyone to get out. Well, as soon as the fire department arrived, people just scattered. There were a number of rooms in that building that were not legal. So now having a fire in there, and obviously the building inspector going back in enforcement, he can go in now and make them do what's legal and what's proper. But once the permits are signed off on again, whether it's there or any other location, to monitor that is not easy. You can't just, people don't have to let you in their home. And that's been a little challenging. But I think the education portion is very important. That's why we've begun to work with John Brothers, Quincy Resources, and others to try to help us get the word out on
that. The total tally of debt that you've positioned the city to take on in your time in office has come up quite a few times in the campaign. Several of the projects we talked about, starting with, you've got the city council, $289 million authorization for downtown infrastructure. There's, $10 million in the 60 or so for cycle. All taken together, do you think that there are any projects there that you could make an argument should have waited or could wait?
Absolutely not.
Can you talk a little bit about your psychology?
First of all, the city for too long has ignored the infrastructure challenges that we have. It's just not fair to people that they get flooded every 10 years in a 100-year storm or 5 years, and the city throws their arms up. They pay taxes. The city gave them a building permit to build there. I just don't think that's an excuse. We have 7.5 miles of seawall in our city. We have 42 tide gates. We have lift stations. We have pump stations, and hundreds of miles of pipe underground. No one likes to think about that stuff, and it's not glitzy. It's it's not a sexy subject to talk about. But we have to address it. Those are public assets. It's our infrastructure. We have to address it. What I've been saying since I've been in is, for years, everyone just voted for a project, but no one talked about how we're going to pay for it. And we've been very clear on going forward to identify revenues as we go forward. On the capital improvement plan, we've identified $15 million of the 25 being hotel tax and sewer rehab monies to help us with these flooding issues and the seawall issues. Perfectly legitimate uses of those monies and dealing with problems that are happening in the neighborhoods. I'm proud of that fact. I mentioned 52 city buildings. We're doing 16 school roofs as we speak that have been leaking for years, which has affected ceilings and walls and inside. And you can't deal with the cosmetic if you don't deal with the problem, just like in one's own home. We're at 5%, which is very low for a city our size. We're amongst the lowest debt ratio. 5% of our budget being debt service. The downtown plan, the bond people don't hold it against us when you look at the numbers, because they're thrilled and they've been involved in every aspect of it. And by the way, when the financial plan comes in from Streetworks, our bond council will be signing off on it, because their concern is you're not identifying revenue to pay down your debt. Well, we have identified the revenue to pay down the debt with downtown, and they love that program. One is that you're improving your infrastructure, because that's an asset that gets weighed as part of a rating. It's not just what you're spending in your debt ratio. It's about what condition your public assets are in. That's part of it. And they're excited about it. They love it because we've identified how we're paying for it. So that will not be held against us. We're at 5% as we speak here today. And in July, we're going to approach 6%. Department of Revenue advises communities. They get concerned when you get to the 10% level. So we're in very good shape, and we're amongst the lowest debt ratio cities our size in the Commonwealth. So I'm proud of that fact. The Central Middle School, we're getting 80% reimbursement on. A program that started a few years ago was supposed to be 90%. When I started, it was at 63%. We got it to the max at 80%. We took 2 properties, and the bond people like this stuff. We took 2 properties that were not on the tax rolls. And we're going to sell the old Central site. We're going to be ahead of the game on property taxes when we're finished with this project, which is unheard of out in built-up communities. So it's making right business decisions, smart choices, and keeping priorities. Let me give you one more example on infrastructure. We pay, the biggest part of the water bill out there is what the Editorial charges us. The operation of the water department is also in it. But We pay for water as it's measured going in, and we pay for storage as it's measured going out. Well, we have a lot more going out than coming in, and that raised some eyebrows, and we really jumped in. We got a hold of Fred Lasky, we had meetings, and what we found was the pipes along the coast were compromised. We had holes in manholes, we had holes in pipes, so the seawater, as the tide was coming in, was filling the sewer lines. Now we're paying for that to be treated going out. Well, no one wants to spend money and talk about those issues, but overall, we've tackled it. We're in our second year of relining programs, redoing the manholes. But over time, it'll stabilize the sewer and water bills, because we're gonna be lowering what we're paying for it in the sewer discharge going out.
Is that why my water bill went up? It goes up and up and up. I'm fascinated by it. I'm the same person living in the same place. Now I'm very personal about this. Using the same amount of water, you know, working the same amount of days, and my water bill consistently goes up and sometimes spikes. And I sit there and I wonder, the sewer, you know, part of it is water, part of it is sewer. I'm looking at it and I'm saying, how can this be? Now, someday we go down to the water department and ask them, and it's always an even number too, by the way, how much I use, and I can't believe that's an actual reading when it ends with a 0. It's my financial background.
You have a new meter?
Yeah, got the new meter too.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, got it all.
I'll make sure you get a new meter.
I got a new meter. Somebody came and inspected.
Okay.
It's all set.
You should have the conversation with Mike Coffey. Now, we didn't go up in the rate this year in the sewer and water because the MWR rate increase was so minimal. We opted not to go up in the rate, but it does.
75 to 95 a quarter for me.
I wish that was
I
my
don't even
cost.
have a dog.
I get one teenager, and in December, 2 more
Oh
teenagers.
dear, no. The shower
brutal,
alone,
brutal.
right? Yeah. Well, okay, but I was wondering, does that affect our water
This will
rate?
have a long-time effect on
Okay.
stabilizing
Sorry
those
to
rates.
be so
Absolutely.
micro about it, but
Absolutely.
that was my thinking.
Mhm.
All right.